Welcome to DMM Downloads. We are podcasting another conversation about DMM between Jeff Crabtree and me, Rudy Rivera. Jeff and I are teamed together in Northern Colorado in a ministry we call DMM NOCO. DMM NOCO is unleashing disciple-making movements in Northern Colorado, and we thought it a good idea to start a podcast as a way to bring awareness and resourcing to ordinary people who are passionate about making multiplying disciple makers in our natural networks. Thanks for joining us in this journey. We hope you get a DMM download from this conversation. Well, hey, Jeff.
Rudy.
We're here in your basement once again.
Yeah, man, what an office. I never come down here much anymore. Our kids are grown and out of the house, so we have a beautiful basement that
You do have a beautiful
we only come
basement.
down here. Oh, my office is down here, but we come down here to record periodically.
We do. It's our second studio. I'm away from home. And even though it's a cloudy day in Northern Colorado, it's still a beautiful day. Always here.
As long as there's not under 50 or snowing, I'm a happy camper.
That's right. Well, hey, we're back for another DMM download. And you and I, as usual, have been talking off mic here for a little while about lots of life things. But today we wanted to, I think, reintroduce, maybe revisit a little bit, but honestly, just kind of continuing to unpack a kind of a big ticket item, which is like, what is our why? Or, and I love, even just a few minutes ago, you said, there's just so many why questions. And, that's so true. That's really true. So today, for our DMM download, Jeff and I thought it would be good to just maybe talk a little bit back and forth about what are our whys. Why are we here? Why are we continuing to even do this podcast? And why are we leaning into DMM? So, Jeff, take it away.
Yeah, I think we probably both have been exposed to that concept or that question, whether it be in leadership or church or just in life, is you got to know your why. Mm-hmm. It's really your foundation and your stability. And so people ask me, and I'm sure they ask you, why? Why are you so passionately committed to this thing called DMM, disciple-making movements? Mm-hmm. And I probably should articulate that a bit better. Know me as a preacher, I could probably give about 20 points. But here's a few of them, Rudy, is one, not to sound super spiritual, but I do believe it was God's call. Mm. I've been in ministry a long time. I've been in the traditional legacy, attractional ministry as we know it. And I'd been 40 years or so when I got introduced to this whole concept. And so the guy asked me, are you curious to learn? Mm. So, yeah, but God used that, and then the many weeks and months and years and different segments that brought me to where I am. And now I'm convinced that God's plan and purpose or why for me in these later stages of life and ministry, that DMM is his call. Mm-hmm. It's my why. It's because I don't think it's just my preference. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's just my interest. I don't think it's just I have nothing better to do. It's my why is that God has called me. Mm. So now that's personalized, and I understand that. Mm-hmm. And everybody's got to determine their call. But I think it has to start there, Rudy, because as we'll say later, it's really difficult. Mm-hmm. It's really hard leaning into a whole different paradigm of life and gospeling and living out the faith. And if I didn't have my why, feeling God called me that, I'd throw in the towel probably. Mm-hmm. And probably just fall into default and go back to that which I knew, that which was easier, that which was more comfortable, that which everybody else kind of affirmed. So I've got a lot more, but we'll just stop right there and say my why is because in my walk with the Lord, I believe my life is not my own. Mm-hmm. And that's not just a super spiritual statement, but it's not. So learning how to follow Jesus, listen to the Spirit of God, use the circumstances that he placed in my life to discern his will, which becomes my why. Does that make sense?
Wow. I particularly love that last sentence. Just, discover His will, which becomes my why. That's so good. I'll kind of jump off of that point actually, and just say part of my why, and I would, if I had to put a percentage on it, it would be a very high percentage. Is when I first got exposed to DMM through you. Um, one way to look at it through a leadership lens or my lens was strategy. Here's a different strategy, or I've kind of tried to come up with a clever way to say it. It's an old strategy in a new way, or things like that. But that's not my why actually. Even though it may be the case, or we can have another podcast on that. My why is because the more I got exposed, the more I kept seeing the heart of God.
Yeah.
And Jeff, for me,
Yeah.
that rocked me.
Right. Yeah.
Because it immediately started to reveal how far away my practice or habits or just my rhythms were just not aligned with God's heart. They were just kind of on autopilot, if you will. Do this, do that, and do that because the books say it, and you train it, and you know it, and you do it. And what do you do next year? You rinse and repeat. You do it again, maybe a little better, maybe a little more clever, but it's the same things. And I just got floored by DMM starts with the heart of God. And I've told you this before. I almost feel like you don't just camp there for as long as it takes.
Absolutely.
I can't get away from that.
Yeah.
And because seeing the heart of God, then you start to be exposed and you just say, whoa, I'm so far. I'm so different than God. My heart needs to get more aligned with God. And as I get more aligned with God, the more I see, I think DMM makes sense because it aligns so much with His heart. So anyhow, that's my why.
That is really good. And in light of that whole idea of the heart of God is, why did He save us? Why did we get saved? Why are we here? And so we'll talk a little bit theological, is it's called sanctification. We could maybe call that spiritual maturity, becoming developed into the likeness of Christ. So one of my whys also, another one, is because in that whole idea of being like Jesus, growing into full maturity, being sanctified by His Spirit. Again, the reason why is there was an element that I had to come face to face with. I kind of saw maturity, sanctification as character issues, as theological issues, as fruit of the Spirit issues, and it does include that. Where for me, whatever fault of my own, I left out a burden for the lost, a caring for the lost, a reaching for the lost. So I've come to believe that one of my whys, why I'm so committed to DMM, disciple-making movements, is because it puts the idea of Jesus came to seek and save the lost. So how do I become like Him? How do I become fully mature? How do I become fully sanctified and leave that off?
Yep.
Now, it's more clear to me today than it was yesterday or 5 years ago or 25 years ago or 48 years ago when I got into ministry. But I think there's one of my whys is I don't know that you can get to that likeness of Jesus or sanctification or maturity without a continued development habit, pathway of how to reach lost people and that multiply. Does that make sense?
It does, and I would say that hit me. So I've been leaning into movement for 4 or 5 years, and I would say that thought actually hit me just even like 2 years ago, because when you're in church space, if you're listening, you're in church space. You know this, like we talk a lot about sanctification and, to your point, like spiritual disciplines or habits and those types of things. But the Great Commission or the heart for the lost does tend to get kind of pushed to the side. That's the evangelism class. You go there next once you graduate from the spiritual formation class. And when somebody said that, like you cannot be fully formed in Christ without having a heart for the lost, I think that makes 100% sense to me. Because we're supposed to be made into his image. And what is his image? What does his heart bear? It's a heart for the lost. And so that part also floored me. That's become part of my why, because I think, yeah, like all of us want to be made mature in Christ.
Sure.
That's good. That's a good desire. It's a godly work. He will do it in us, but we won't fully mature without that aspect. So anyhow, thanks for
Yeah,
bringing that
that's
up.
great, and kind of it all dovetails and is integrated together. One of my other whys in light of that, see, that's more, if I'm thinking maturity or sanctification, that's really self-focused, and sometimes that's okay. But the other aspect of that, my why, is really not about me growing into sanctification or likeness of Jesus. It really is a tunnel vision towards lost people.
Yep.
And you've heard me say this many times. We have a theology that lost people will go to hell, eternal separation from God. We believe that theologically. I'm sure any evangelical Christian, if you ask them, very few of them would say no, even though we have a culture that's, I think, being challenged by that. But the point being, but we don't live like it. And so the point being is it's not just still about me, it's still about, are we being effective in being able to be on a rescue mission because we care about men, women, boys, and girls that live across the street, live behind us, that serve us at restaurants, da-da-da-da-da. My other why of DMM, I told you, I believed in the Great Commission for 40 plus years as a church leader, a professional clergy. I just did not practice it. I was not a practitioner. And what DMM does is it really does put you on the path to not just sanctification and maturity, but actually really having a burden and caring and a strategy to reach the lost people who are all around me that are in my sphere of influence.
Yeah, and so even though I mentioned strategy earlier a little bit as a secondary thought, I do think it's a strategy, to your point.
Good.
And I think it's a strategy to engage the world around us and the lost. And I think it addresses, to a large degree, some of the tensions we feel in our culture. And I realize wherever you're listening, you may have a different culture where you're listening it regarding how church interfaces the general population. But here in Northern Colorado, I mean, we've lived here 7 years, and I would say I think it's a very unchurched part of the country.
Oh, yeah.
I know we've got
Data
churches.
would say that.
There's a lot of churches here. It's not that there aren't churches here, but in respect to the population growth and the general sense of, is it shaping the culture or even influencing the culture of Northern Colorado? I would say, generally speaking, the church here is an afterthought at best. And I've met actually more people here, Jeff. I don't think I've told you this. I've met more people here in Northern Colorado, grown up in America. They're Americans who have been unchurched than any other place I've lived in the country.
Yeah.
And so, anyhow. It's not maybe the most unchurched, but it is one of them. So.
Yeah, again, we need to know our demographics, and this is a unique place there. I just thought I'd share this with you, because sometimes when I share this, people go, well, can you grow in maturity and sanctification and likeness of Jesus and really focus on the lost without the pathway of DMM or buying into DMM principles or the integrated idea of the DMM? And I would say, maybe, probably. That goes back to my call, is I feel this is the call I've been in. But I would say that I do think it is so biblically integrated in various ways that I think it, for me, is probably the most effective way to really lean into that. So I don't want anybody to listen and go, oh, they're saying DMM is the only way to sanctification. DMM is the only way to reach the lost. We're not saying that, but we are saying from a lot of experiences and years of ministering with people that for us, it really does give us a clear pathway to do that, which is, again, our why.
Yeah. Well said, Jeff. Thanks for kind of revisiting a bit, I think, the why, but also maybe unpacking a few other little thoughts there. So appreciate this download. Thanks, Jeff, for that engaging download. In DMM, we like to say that disciples are learners. I know I'm learning a lot from my conversations with you, Jeff. From all of us in DMM NOCO, we hope you got a DMM download from the conversation today. Don't forget to leave this podcast a review wherever you are listening online. If you found this conversation helpful, please head over to our site, dmmnoco.com, where you can find more content for your DMM journey, including a self-paced Habits of a Multiplying Disciple course. The course is designed to give you practical next steps to becoming a DMM practitioner and multiplying disciple maker. You can take that course for free at dmmnoco.com. We will be back next week with another engaging DMM download episode. Until then, may you hear from God through His Spirit and take simple steps of obedience in what you hear.